The Democrats are all rallying around as the Republican caucus splits at the seams. Outgoing Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, the woman who expertly led her increasingly diverse caucus for years, she was there today, standing next to her successor for a moment that will be enshrined in history for, well, a lot of reasons. Joining us now is Colorado Congressman Joe Neguse, who was elected to the number 5 role in leadership and will head up the communications arm for the House Democrats in the new Congress. Congressman, thank you for joining us. I think a lot of Democrats feel like the job of communication was pretty easy today, given the actual implosion happening on the other side of the aisle. But I got to ask, given the just a phenomenal amount of unity within the House Democratic caucus, what is your expectation for how Democrats can use that unity to make any kind of legislative difference in the next Congress when they're in the minority?
Well, good evening, Alex. It's good to be with you. I think you articulated well the historic unity that was on full display in the House Democratic Caucus under the strong leadership of our colleague and our leader, Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries. The House Democratic Caucus is unified, united, and focused on delivering results for the American people. And I could think of no clearer juxtaposition than the chaos that was on full display in the Republican caucus today, given today's unprecedented and historic proceedings, which you've described so well. I think it's important for your viewers to just consider again the unprecedented nature of today's proceedings and the reality that because of the Republican dysfunction, for the first time in over 100 years, the House literally was not organized on the first day of the session of Congress. I think that's a sad day for the American public. I think it's a sad day for the House of Representatives as an institution. Ultimately, House Democrats are ready to govern. We are prepared to govern, but we need a partner to do so. And unfortunately, it's clear the Republican Party is disinclined and incapable of governing. Any American who watched today's proceedings would reach the same conclusion. So, look, we're going to continue to try to find ways to forge consensus. Of course, we'll see what happens tomorrow. I suspect it's going to be a few interesting days ahead.
I mean, that unity is born not just as a study in contrast, right? It's not just to show Republicans what a functioning party looks like. It's also leverage. If you can keep the Democratic caucus together with 212 votes, there's a chance you peel away some moderate Republicans and can actually get something done. Is that a case that Congressman Leader Jeffries has made to the caucus in terms of staying together through the coming days and weeks?
I certainly think so. I certainly agree. Look, I think that the unity is born from the talent of the leadership team, of course, led by Leader Jeffries, but it's also born from the shared values that we have as Democrats, which ultimately are shared by the American people, the priorities that we have pursued for the better part of the last 4 years since I was first sworn into the Congress: better paying jobs, lower costs for working families, building safer communities, defending democracy. These are priorities that are shared by and large by the vast majority of the American people. It's what unites us as a caucus. It is why we outperformed the historic norms in the last midterm election. It's why I believe that the Republican majority will be a temporary one. And so, I think we're more unified than ever, and we are prepared to do the work and to work on behalf of the American people. I'd like to think that the Republicans would be able to get their affairs in order so that we can get to doing the work that the American public expects us to do.
Yeah, and I think Claire McCaskill called this day like Christmas for Democrats, given, again, the show of force, the absolute chaos on the other side of the aisle. But there is the reality that Republicans are going to take over the majority in the House. Presumably they will actually elect a speaker. And then we have to all sit there and watch as they try and figure out how to govern. I imagine that there's a certain amount of sadness in Democratic hearts today as well, given the reality of what's ahead of us. I mean, how have you been thinking about both the highs of what you've accomplished as a Democrat and the lows of what's happening as someone who's presumably interested in governance?
Yeah, look, Alex, I think there's a heavy dose of sadness and of disappointment, but not just in terms of how Democrats perceive today's proceedings, the American public. I mean, you think about, again, this institution and the Congress as an institution, the sort of democracy writ at large, and the notion that the Republican dysfunction and chaos and crisis has engulfed this institution in the way that it has over the course of the last 24 hours clearly is a worrying sign, a dispiriting sign, I think, for our republic. And so I certainly, as I said, Democrats are united in trying to get things done for the American people. We want to govern. We are prepared to govern as we have done in the past. And I am just hopeful that the Republicans will ultimately learn to do the same. But unfortunately, it doesn't appear as though that's going to be in the cards in the 118th Congress.
Colorado Congressman Joe Neguse, thank you for your time tonight. Good luck out there tomorrow. We'll be right back.